Fortune, Episode 5, Control, Opening Orientation. In previous episodes, we dismantled several illusions, such as the illusion that effort guarantees reward, the illusion that visibility guarantees leverage, and the illusion that timing is something that happens to you. Each illusion collapses into the same misunderstanding. Effort without position exhausts. Visibility without alignment exposes. Timing without readiness passes unnoticed. People believe fortune is something to be acquired. In reality, fortune is something to be controlled. Acquisition is an event. Control is a structure. Events create excitement. Structures create permanence. Control is not dominance. It is not aggression. It is not manipulation. Control is clarity over what influences outcomes and what does not. Clarity separates signal from noise. It distinguishes opportunity from distraction. It decides what continues and what ends. Most people do not lack effort. They do not lack visibility. They do not even lack timing awareness. They lack control over the variables that determine return. They move, but they do not govern. They expand, but they do not secure. They receive, but they do not retain. This episode is about variable. I am Fortune reigns, and this is Fortune. Core thesis. Control determines whether fortune stabilizes or evaporates. Many people experience temporary elevation. Few sustain it. Why? Because elevation without control is exposure. Elevation amplifies everything. Strength becomes influence. Weakness becomes liability. Control is the ability to decide what enters your system, what leaves your system, and what remains under your authority. Authority is not symbolic. It is operational. Without control, effort lacks. Visibility attracts extraction. Timing benefits someone else. Leakage is subtle. It appears as small concessions, minor distractions, unquestioned access. Fortune does not stay where control is absent. It passes through. The misunderstanding of power. Power is often confused with force. Force is loud. Force is visible. Force reacts. Control is quiet. Control is deliberate. Control selects. Force attempts to overpower resistance. Control prevents unnecessary resistance from forming. Force escalates conflict. Control avoids it entirely. Force tries to change external conditions. Control governs internal structure. Those who rely on force burn energy. Those who rely on control conserve it. Energy conserved compounds. Fortune favors conservation. Control and resource flow. Money is not wealth. Money is flow. Flow without direction floods. Flow with direction irrigates. Wealth is controlled flow. If resources enter your life but exit just as quickly, control is missing. Entry is easy. Retention requires governance. This is why sudden money disappears. This is why rapid visibility collapses. This is why opportunities feel unstable. Instability signals weak containment. Control determines retention. Retention determines growth. Growth determines legacy. Without control, fortune becomes event-based instead of structural. Events excite, structures endure. Endurance attracts expansion. The three domains of control. There are three domains where control must exist for fortune to stabilize. Control over attention. Control over access. Control over identity. Attention is the first currency. Attention directs effort. Effort shapes position. If you cannot decide where your attention rests, someone else will. Attention fragmented is leverage surrendered. Attention concentrated becomes precision. Access is the second currency. Who can reach you? Who can influence you? Who can extract from you? Open access without boundaries erodes authority. Boundaries define value. Identity is the third currency. If others define you, they position you. If they position you, they control how fortune interacts with you. Control begins with definition. Definition precedes negotiation. Why people resist control. Control requires discipline without spectacle. It requires saying no without explanation. It requires silence when reaction would be easier. Many people prefer intensity over discipline because intensity feels powerful. Intensity creates motion. Discipline creates direction. But intensity is temporary. Control is sustainable. Control demands self-governance. Self-governance eliminates excuses. And self-governance is uncomfortable for those accustomed to reacting instead of directing. Reaction feels alive. Direction feels restrained. Restraint is misunderstood strength. Control and emotional regulation. Emotional volatility disrupts control. Emotion is energy. Unregulated energy distorts signal. When emotion dictates action, timing collapses. When reaction overrides strategy, visibility distorts. Control does not eliminate emotion. It sequences it. Emotion can inform. It must not decide. Decision belongs to clarity. Those who cannot regulate themselves cannot stabilize fortune, because fortune amplifies what already exists. If instability exists internally, scale magnifies it. Scale without stability becomes exposure. Control versus controlled. Most people believe they are in control. Belief is not proof. But examine their patterns. Patterns reveal governance. They respond to notifications instantly. They alter direction based on commentary. They escalate based on provocation. That is not control. That is conditioning. Conditioned behavior is predictable. Predictable behavior is exploitable. Fortune does not reward the exploitable. It rewards the composed. Composition reflects internal order. Order creates leverage. The economics of control. Every system rewards those who control bottlenecks. Distribution channels, information gateways, access points. Control the bottleneck and you influence flow. Influence over flow determines value. Fail to control it and dependency erodes negotiation power. Negotiation power determines outcome stability. This is not aggression. It is structure. Structure determines sustainability. Sustainability attracts long-term alignment. Control and visibility. Visibility without control invites scrutiny. Scrutiny tests structure. Scrutiny without authority invites erosion. When you are visible but lack control over narrative, others define your value. Definition shapes perception. Definition determines price. If others set your price, they determine your ceiling. Control over narrative protects valuation, and valuation determines wealth accumulation. Accumulation compounds only where boundaries hold. Control and timing. Timing authorizes movement. Authorization opens gates. Control determines whether movement compounds. An opportunity may arrive at the perfect moment. Without control, it becomes chaos. With control, it becomes foundation. Foundation stabilizes expansion. This is why preparation alone is insufficient. Preparation builds capacity. Control governs expansion. Expansion without governance collapses. Governance sustains. Sustained movement becomes legacy. Why control feels restrictive. Control limits options. Limitation clarifies direction. It narrows focus. It filters engagement. It rejects distraction. Many interpret limitation as loss. In reality, limitation is refinement. Refinement sharpens signal. Sharp signal attracts aligned response. Diffuse signal invites noise. Noise consumes energy. Energy preserved is leverage retained. Retention multiplies influence. Control and legacy. Temporary fortune excites. Controlled fortune multiplies. Multiplication requires patience. Legacy requires stability across time. Stability requires boundaries. Boundaries require enforcement. Enforcement requires clarity. Clarity is the foundation of control. Without clarity, enforcement becomes aggression. With clarity, enforcement becomes protection. Protection sustains prosperity. Prosperity sustained becomes inheritance. The refrain. Effort prepares. Visibility invites. Timing authorizes. Control sustains. Sustainment is the final measure. Preparation without control wastes capacity. Invitation without control invites extraction. Authorization without control creates volatility. Volatility destroys momentum. Sustainability is the final test of fortune. Anyone can rise, few remain. Remaining is not luck, it is governance. Governance transforms success into system. The cost of abandoning control. When control is abandoned, chaos fills the space. Chaos does not announce itself immediately. Chaos may look like opportunity at first. Rapid calls, rapid movement, rapid expansion. Acceleration without containment fractures structure. But what expands without governance fractures. Fracture invites correction. Correction without control feels like punishment. In reality, it is structural collapse. Collapse is rarely sudden. Those who understand this prevent collapse by limiting expansion until governance is ready. That is discipline. Discipline preserves trajectory. Trajectory maintained compounds over time. The authority of restraint. Restraint is not hesitation. Restraint is awareness under command. It is command over impulse. Impulse reacts. Command directs. Fortune trusts direction more than enthusiasm. Enthusiasm fluctuates. Direction stabilizes. Stability attracts capital. Capital accumulates around predictability. Predictability emerges from controlled systems. Systems outlast moments. Final integration. Fortune is not granted to the loudest. It is not granted to the busiest. It is not granted to the most visible. It stabilizes around the most controlled. Control attention, control access, control narrative, control expansion, and fortune no longer feels elusive. It becomes structural. Structure generates repetition. It becomes repeatable. Repetition builds skill. It becomes durable. Durability commands respect. Closing seal. Fortune responds to preparation. It accelerates through visibility. It aligns with timing, but it remains only when control exists. Without control, fortune visits. With control, fortune resides. Residence transforms fluctuation into foundation. Decide which one you are building. I am, fortune reigns, and this has been fortune. Fortuna, Favet, Fortibus. Fortune favors the bold.